Happy July, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Dark Room, where two blind cinephiles illuminate the sided. I'm Lee Pugsley.
I'm Alex Howard.
And this is a podcast hosted by two legally blind guys for film lovers of all abilities. And today we have a really exciting episode with a very special guest. Alex, I'll pass it over to you.
Great, thanks, Lee. And I want to wish everyone a happy Disability Pride Month. Today we have Ariel Baska. They are the Festival Director of Access Horror and a horror activist. So do you want to tell us about your unique and awesome film festival? I attended a few years ago, and I love that the films have a focus on disability, not only behind the camera, but in theme. And then also they are accessible with audio description and captions.
Yeah. So what I love about Access Horror very specifically is that it's a place to celebrate disability and genre. I think one of the things that a lot of people forget is that disability is literally built on the backs of disabled people. Films like Frankenstein and Dracula are very much rooted in disability in terms of ideas and, the way that they've been carried forward as ideas, again, has always gone back to disability. When you look at creatures, when you look at monsters, and one of the things that for a lot of disabled people has always been the problem is that there are these typical tropes that you fall into when it's non-disabled people behind the camera. But when you give a disabled person a camera to create a lens on horror, it becomes a very different thing from inspiration porn. You can't have inspiration porn in horror. So that's my pitch. That's why everyone should love horror movies.
I am right there with you. I saw Final Destination Bloodlines for my second time last night, and I don't know why it gives me so much joy. Just like like I went in kind of in a weird mood and I came out so happy, and I'm like, this is so weirdly therapeutic.
And what I love about the horror genre as it pertains to disability is that it opens up the doors for so many creative ways of storytelling. And I mean, let's be honest, like when you bring disability representation to the table in any form of storytelling, there's just so many different options on the table, but specifically with horror, there's so many fun tropes you can play around with when you have authentic representation there that I think really bring a lot of richness and freshness to the storytelling and the filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's overlooked in so many ways, the richness of disability culture and what that brings to storytelling as a whole. A lot of times filmmakers and producers tend to forget about the Crip lens and the fact that we bring our own way of looking at the world that prioritize flexibility and accessibility in ways that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily see the same things we do. And I think it's so important to have horror that reflects not only what the world really looks like, but how we really see the world.
I love that. And it also highlights the resourcefulness that we as disabled creatives and individuals have to offer. And I feel like in horror, so much of the time you have people that are trapped in a room or they're in this like dire situation. And so it's like they have to be very resourceful with it. And, just by nature, to your point, Ariel, we are adaptable and we are flexible. And I think that we can definitely bring that to the table in a really fun and unique way when it comes to horror.
Can you tell us your history and how you got involved and all of that?
Absolutely. So I will tell you first off, I was born with disabilities, but did not recognize it for a very long time because a little bit of frank talk here. I was born with a rare disease that didn't have a name. It didn't exist in in any medical journals or manuals or anything. It wasn't even discovered to be a thing until I was in my 20s, and I wasn't diagnosed with it personally until my 30s. But I was born with this rare disease that covered the right half of my face. And so I had red and purple marks extending from my scalp to my gums to my neck. And it left me blind in one eye because of the swelling around my face, and it left my right ear mostly deaf. And as a result, I grew up with parents who were both involved in gifted education, and they were very adamant that I never say the word special education or disability to anyone because they were certain I was going to be branded as something I wasn't because they recognized that I was a gifted child. And there's a lot I missed out on because of that. I had no sense of disability community for most of my growing up years. I've had a number of different kinds of conditions that have sprouted up along the way, but being on the deaf-blind spectrum as I am, I feel like I have I have a different sense of the world than other people do. I literally see everything completely differently. I'm constantly looking for shades of depth that I can't actually see in person on screen. And I'm always looking as a filmmaker at the world in completely wild and wonderful ways because of my neurological disabilities as well. I have considerable neurological impairments. I've had brain surgery twice. I have a shunt that keeps me moving. And it's a thing that I think people lose sight of who have not had this weird sort of rolling with the punches experience of disability, where you have to learn how to navigate the world completely anew. In my case, literally every year I have a new disability. So in my 40 some years on this earth, every single year brings new health challenges, brings new disabilities. So I'm not going to bore everyone with everything, but I will say that in 2020, in the pandemic, I suddenly found community in a way that I hadn't before. The availability of online community through Zoom in the pandemic was a godsend for me. I started my podcast, Ride the Omnibus, and began connecting with other disability advocates. And I realized that I had been a disability advocate all along for my students. I was a Latin teacher for 15 years, and I was constantly advocating for my students, but not advocating for myself. And I realized, oh wait, this is community I deserve to be a part of. I deserve to feel kind of the warm embrace of community. And this is the thing, not just for me to fight for other people. I'm fighting for myself and my place to be.
I definitely identify with a lot of what you said. I mean, I also have a rare neurological condition that wasn't diagnosed till I was about 25, 23, something like that. And I mean, I'm also obviously visually impaired. You and I met in respectability, right? Were we in the same lab cohort in 2020?
We were not. I was in the 2022 lab cohort.
Okay, but we met in the organization, and
Hmm.
I also found my disability community in 2020 when I did respectability.
Wow.
So that is all really awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think 2020 was a linchpin year for a lot of people because everything went online and you had more opportunity to meet the people, to meet your people.
Definitely. And you also had more time to meet people from different communities and to really think about what is the community that I want to be a part of and how do I want to go about doing that and connecting with other people. And I think, there were a lot of difficult things about the pandemic, but like you said, there were certain things about it that I think were a true gift to all of us in that way.
Hmm.
I think we wanted to ask you because starting a film festival sounds so daunting and like so much work. So like, how did you come up with the idea to do this and then decide, I'm going to do it? And like, what were the steps that you took to actually accomplish that?
Yeah, so like all my ideas, if I had actually known how much work it would be to do it, I probably wouldn't do it going back in time. But it was so incredibly important to me at the time when I started it in 2023. I felt like, I had the fire of rage in my belly from going on the festival circuit with my first short film, Our First Priority. Our First Priority was a film about medical gaslighting, and it was a horror short that played around the world, 27 different festivals. But I noticed as I was going around to festivals, most of them were not accessible. Most of them didn't feature any kind of intersectionality. And most of them had no way to reach out to people to ask for accommodations if you needed anything. And I was very determined that this needed to change. And, I looked around and I saw, like, oh, there are these great disability film festivals, but they all seem very concerned with kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of, mainstream fare for the most part. They didn't seem that interested in genre. Everybody I talked to at Superfest and Real Abilities, in their programming would say, "Oh yeah, we like horror movies," but then, you know, when you actually got talking at length, they weren't as fond of them. In the last few years, some of that has changed. That attitude has changed, and we are actually partnering with Superfest Disability Film Festival and the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center, which is wonderful. But at the time, I was so determined that we needed to carve out a space where we could feel safe to tell stories that are problematic and that are different from the mainstream and show us in not necessarily a perfect light all the time. And that was really important to me, to have a place for the messiness and the trauma and all the ugly parts of life laid bare.
I really like what you said about just showing, the messiness of disability in terms of just seeing us as just people, that we have traumas, we have, our own shortcomings as well. We obviously have, gifts and talents and skills to offer as well. But, just like anyone else, and kind of like normalizing that narrative, taking it away from just like the inspirational overcoming adversity
Mm-hmm.
sort of stories. And then I know that we touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you were coming up with the vision for this film festival, horror was always the genre that you knew this was going to be. Like it was going to be a genre film festival for horror.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. The only question I had was if it would be strong enough to become access colon other genres. So like maybe one year have access colon fantasy or access colon, whatever. If it ever got to be big enough, like that was the dream, that it would have spin-off potential. And I love that idea, but I always wanted it to be within genre, within the fantastic.
So, in planning your film festival, what was the most unexpected challenge that you faced that were like, whoa, I didn't expect this to be so hard?
Sponsorships. It was really massively hard to get money and to get sponsorships that would cover the entire cost of the festival, particularly staffing. A lot of people were happy to give grants related to accessibility, but it was really, really hard to find funding that would cover staffing. And staffing a film festival is no joke. It's very, very hard work. If you estimate the number of unpaid hours I've put into this festival between 2023 and 2025, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. And you do it though because it's a labor of love. And it's really important to me and to the world that it be out there. I hope I don't sound too puffed up when I say that, but it's really important to me that this work exists and that I'm able to highlight disabled creators who are doing amazing work while also creating a space for community to come together.
What are the requirements to be accepted into your festival? Is it disabled filmmakers or is it disability theme, or what are the requirements?
So our requirements are mostly kind of loose. It can be a disability story, but there has to be some form of authentic representation, either in front of the camera or behind the camera. It doesn't have to be about disability. It doesn't have to be, anything except really good genre fare. For the most part, we're looking for messaging that doesn't say that disability is the horror. We're looking for messaging that's more diving into what disability is or talking about ableism as the horror. And so when we're looking at films, we're more looking for, is this a perspective we've never seen before? And does it fit with the overall vision of what we're crafting?
To explain that a little better for people who might be unsure, your short film, I remember it played at the festival in 2023, right? I think I saw it there. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
at Superfest?
No,
Or,
at
oh, at Access Horror. Yes, it did. Yes, it
yeah.
did.
Can you explain a little bit more about your short film? Because I think that perfectly encapsulates what you're talking about in terms of something we've never seen before. Because I remember I really identified with that short specifically because it was about the medical side of things. And, because I was undiagnosed for so long too. So your short really spoke to me.
Yeah. So my short film was very much rooted in my experience as a child who was undiagnosed in terms of anything that was wrong with me. And essentially, what I did was I had a child go to the doctor's office and essentially not be believed by the doctor. But the child has a sort of guardian angel character who sends the doctor to hell for not taking care of her as a patient. And for me, like that was so tremendously cathartic to be able to craft a vision of hell where doctors could go if they chose not to listen. And that was so important to me. But that's the kind of thing I mean when I talk about making ableism the horror that it is. Because in the film, the most frightening thing is not the girl's disabilities, it's the way the doctor is treating her.
And then, can you tell us a little bit about this year's festival? Because I know we're celebrating Disability Pride Month, but we're also promoting the festival starts in August. So what is the deadline for people who want to register for it? And then what can they expect at this year's fest?
Absolutely. So July 29th is the deadline to register and to let us know if you're coming. It's really going to be an incredible evening. We've got some amazing filmmakers coming. We've also got Sheree Bohannon and Zero Gravity of Blurty Massacre podcast doing a live podcast recording, along with an award ceremony and a silent auction in partnership with the George A. Romero Foundation. And we've got the award ceremony presided over by Phil Nobile Jr. of Fangoria. He's the editor-in-chief of Fangoria magazine, the foremost horror magazine. And we're really excited to be able to share about 10 different shorts that we consider to be kind of the greatest hits that we've found in two specific themes. So we have one shorts block that's called Womb to Tomb, that's all about motherhood and identity. And we have one shorts block that's called Flesh of My Flesh, all about body horror and kind of experimental uncovering of maladies. So,
And they all have audio description, correct?
and they all have audio description.
That is amazing.
Yep.
That's
Done by the incredible Cheryl Green. So,
oh,
and
that's
her
great. Okay.
fabulous team. So,
Is that the collective, Audio Description
Yeah,
Collective?
the Social Audio Description Collective, remarkably for this project, brought in lots of outsiders. They brought in lots of outside help on this particular project, just looking for voices that were more authentic to the lived experience of characters. And I'm so excited that we got such a wonderful team together to work on this.
And so you said registration ends the 29th, and then when is the actual festival?
The actual festival is August 1st in New York City at DCTV Firehouse Cinema or online at accesshorror.com. And basically, every aspect of the festival will be online for a short period of time for people who register for the virtual event. And then all of the films will be available on Shudder later in September
With audio description.
with audio description and open captioning.
That's awesome. And out of curiosity, then, when filmmakers submit their films for consideration, is it a requirement that they have audio description on their film already, or is that something that you guys take care of once the films have been selected?
This year, we decided to commit to making sure it was something that we provided for each of the films. We decided, kind of as a team, that it made more sense because filmmaking budgets have only shrunk over the years, not gotten bigger. And while in an ideal world, we would like everyone to budget appropriately for accessibility, we all know for a fact that tends to be something that people think of later, or or perhaps they're doing it themselves and not doing it the best it possibly could be done. And so what we chose to do this year was review everyone's work, whether you had captions or audio description or not, and just kind of scrub them up a little, make the accessibility the best it possibly can be. Also educate the filmmakers on how they can make the process go smoother, how really involving filmmakers in the process of the captioning and the audio description rather than doing it for them. I think it was really a wonderful thing that we were able to offer this year, thanks to the kind mentorship of Storm Miguel Flores and Cheryl Green, who were willing to kind of engage with our filmmakers in this way. But yeah, we always offer a screening fee if people have all of their accessibility ducks in a row. But if they don't, we're going to make sure it's as good as it can be.
And that's awesome because then they can carry those assets to other festivals and beyond, right?
Exactly.
And I love what you said too about like the idea of educating filmmakers in the process. I've been like doing the film festival circuit the last year with the short film that I have. And, there is a lot of education that goes into educating on accessibility, whether filmmakers are aware of accessibility or not. But even the ones that are aware of accessibility don't always know how to go about it and how to go about it in the most productive ways. And there is definitely education that needs to be done. And I appreciate the fact that you and your team take the time to do that.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And it's one of those things that I don't think enough people really pay attention to.
So I know that one of the most enriching things about the film festival experience is the way that film festivals bring community together, and you're able to make new friends and find collaborators within the festival itself. How have you seen community be cultivated within the festival Access Horror that you've been doing?
Well, within the 2023 version of the festival, it was mostly that people who were on the industry panels who were talking together and engaging with each other. A lot of different kinds of collaborations came up because of people meeting in that way. But for the most part, because it was online and we didn't have a lot of ways for community to engage, not enough happened, in my opinion, on that score. And so that's why I'm really excited to have an in-person component and also have a little bit of community time where folks can engage with each other rather than just with the filmmakers. And I think that'll be really helpful.
I think that's so cool because horror is my favorite genre, but I do think horror fans are so nice. Like it's such a brutal
It's true.
genre, but like I don't know, it's like, oh, I'm watching this brutal thing or this gross thing, but like horror fans are such nice people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great community.
It is.
And as you look forward, I know that you had talked about, cultivating more community and creating those in-person opportunities for community to happen within the festival. Is there anything else that you'd like to see and for your long-term vision that, in 5 years, this is where I'd love the festival to be, or this is my vision for the future?
I mean, in 5 years, if all goes according to plan, there will be lots of other offshoots related to access horror. My biggest plans right now are the fact that we are doing an event in Winchester, Virginia in September at the Alamo Drafthouse there. And as a part of their Lost Weekend Film Festival, all of the Access Horror shorts will be playing there. And then we're also going to have all of the Access Horror shorts playing in San Francisco on October 30th with the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center. So I think that's great, but I really want it to go global. I'm not satisfied with bicoastal domination. I want the world. So that's what I'm rooting for. So hopefully in 5 years it goes international.
That would be amazing. And I think and well, that's one big chunk of the horror community that's missing is the international horror. I mean, Titan. There are so many. Oh, The Ugly Stepsister. There's so many like foreign language horror movies I would love to watch, but I cannot because they are not accessible. So that would be awesome if you guys went international and was able to make some awesome because there are a bunch of countries with different horror tendencies and
Yeah.
ways that they do things. So that would be awesome if you could incorporate that.
I would love to. I mean, just to be clear, Access Horror in 2023 and in 2025 is technically international. We do have horror shorts that are from other countries, specifically Canada and the UK and Ireland. And I also feel, though, that it's so important to incorporate more than just English speakers. We have a couple with subtitles from other countries, but for the most part, it's not as international as I would like, and I'm hoping we can broaden our horizons.
That's awesome.
And it's really cool that you guys are doing the Alamo Drafthouse screening in Virginia and then with the San Francisco screening as well, because I think that visibility is so key in terms of, I was talking about just the fact of having the disability community be a presence, in all aspects of life, whether that's the business world, whether that's the film world, whether that's the fashion world, just all over the place. Like the more that you're able to get these screenings and these films are able to be seen, the more it's going to help people rethink perspectives and open their eyes to new perspectives and to see the power of disability as well. So, yeah, I hope that as the years go by, that you'll just be able to get more and more screenings at different places and the festival will only continue to grow so that visibility gets more widespread.
Thank you.
So a couple of questions for you. I guess the first question is some people aren't a huge fan of the horror genre, but if they want to get started in horror, what are some recommendations of starter films you can make that are fully accessible?
Okay. Well, speaking of fully accessible, I would highly recommend something like A Quiet Place as a starter franchise to think about, not only because it specifically highlights disability in a really meaningful way, and it makes it clear that disabled people are not going to be left behind in the apocalypse. I love that about it. But also, the studio did provide, since ASL is a major part of the story, A deaf character is very much centered within it. The studio did a good job with both audio description and captioning on this one, and I highly, highly recommend it.
Do you use AD on
I
everything you
do.
watch? Okay.
I do. Not everything I watch, but I would say like
You prefer it?
about like maybe a third of the time. Because for me, when I'm having migraines, like I can't look at screens.
Yep, I'm the same
And
way.
and if I have screen sensitivity, like forget it. It's not happening.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up A Quiet Place. I think that's a really good
Oh no, for
example.
sure. A Quiet Place was one of my favorite films the year it came out.
Yeah, I think everything in the series has been very strong too. So
Yeah,
A Quiet Place 2, I think, really delves more into the disability also.
yes, yes. And Quiet Place Day One as well.
The whole franchise is great in terms of definitely starter horror for disability. But just like they're great in general too. They're awesome movies, all of them.
They
Um,
are, and I think they're a really great gateway drug to get you hooked on horror in a lot of ways because it's very, very deep character building and world building as well going on in that franchise.
and what are some of your personal favorite horror movies? Like top three?
Oh my God. Really? Top three? I have to name a top three. Ugh, this is so hard. Well, okay. So A Nightmare on Elm Street is literally the first one I ever saw. So I don't have a choice. Like, I got to go with Freddy first. A Nightmare on Elm Street is still, like, to my mind, the absolute pinnacle of success when it comes to horror movies. When I think about favorite recent horror movies, Us is certainly up there. I think what Jordan Peele is doing in Us and Nope and Get Out is just absolutely phenomenal. And I've been blown away by also what Nia DaCosta did with the Candyman remake. I thought that was out of this world. And the original Candyman was so iconic for me as someone from Chicago when I first saw it, it really resonated very deeply with me. But to see what Nia DaCosta did again to kind of center the violence in a way that makes sense in terms of the oppression and putting the oppression where it belongs, it really, really was so powerful for me. And you know, I can't say enough great things about what she's doing.
That's awesome. And I think most of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies have AD on Amazon Prime. I don't think the first one does, but I think starting with the third one they do. And that's my favorite horror franchise ever. Like the whole, I love every movie. And he's not ableist, which is great because he goes after a deaf
Exactly.
kid. Yeah.
He goes after deaf kids just as much as he goes after everyone. He's got the torture wheelchair. He's got, all the things. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And Jordan Peele, all of his movies are also accessible, audio described. Get Out, I would say, is another great starter horror movie. That I
Hmm.
mean, I did
definitely.
a list of the top 50 movies of last decade, and Get Out was my number one.
Gotcha. How about
Lee,
you, Lee? What are your favorite horror movies?
That's a great question. I would say that among my favorite horror movies would be Get Out is definitely up there, as well as earlier Shyamalan. And earlier M Night Shyamalan movies I really liked. I don't know if The Sixth Sense could be classified as full on horror. It's more psychological thriller, but The Sixth Sense and Signs might fit into that category for me. And then let me see what else. It's interesting because I didn't grow up with horror, so I haven't seen a lot of the earlier horror films that have been hailed as some of the greats. I still have a lot of catch-up work to do in the horror genre. I keep up with it now. Hereditary would also be
Oh, yeah.
up there as well.
yep,
So
Great.
those are some of them that come to mind right now.
yeah, and it follows for me as well as one of my favorites. Great. So, where can people find you? You want to promote your podcast?
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
can find me online on Instagram at Just Ask Abaska. I'm sort of teaching you how to spell my last name. So Just Ask a Baska. And I am also on at Access Horror on Instagram, Blue Sky. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the interwebs, so you can find me somewhere.
Great. And then what's your podcast called?
My podcast is Ride the Omnibus. We have been on hiatus for a while, but we will be returning after Access Horror. I had to kind of take a break in the midst of the madness.
Okay, great. And can you spell that?
Sure. Ride the Omnibus, RIDE, the OMNIBUS. So
Great.
it's from Latin, for everyone, by everyone, with everyone.
Okay, great. And we will link all of that below. We will also link the registration for Access Horror and all that good stuff. And thank you so much for being on the show and promoting your Accessible Film Festival. This is so awesome.
Thank you so much, Lee and Alex. I really appreciate it.
This has been such a joy to have you on the show, Ariel, and we really appreciate the work you're doing. You're doing so many wonderful things, and we love your heart and your passion for accessibility for the disabled community and for storytelling in general, and bringing all of these things together in such a very rich and beautiful way. So thank you for what you're doing. And, we are going to be supporting you as you continue as well.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot.
We'd like to thank Matt Lauterbach and All Senses Go for making captions on this and every episode of The Dark Festival.
And if you have any questions for me and Alex about anything that was discussed here with Ariel today, you can reach us at darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Darkroom Filmcast.
And we'd also like to thank BlindCan for helping with editing on this episode.
And thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you back here next time on The Dark Room.
Take care, guys.